Hello, YouTube. Back again, 2 days in a row, which is not going to be my norm. I had one of my great insomnia nights last night, and when I woke up thinking about was On The Perf Podcast, their episode last week. I think they called it Don't Be a Gary. I'm going to retitle it Don't Let Friends Be a Gary. And what kept me thinking was, man, I did a lot of these things when I was first starting out in the competitive shooting. I do have a plan to make a podcast for conventional military folks that want to get into conventional or competition shooting. It is a bit of a leap from what you do day to day, and with your branch of service is good and makes you ready. Coming from the south side, those folks are a little bit more adapted to what is done in the conventional in the competition shooting, but even some of those guys struggle a little bit. Man, so this morning I was filming some footage for reloading, and I listened to the podcast again, and I wrote down notes for all the things I did. And luckily, as I read through here, most of the things that made me a Gary at my first match were gear. And honestly, I kept some of that gear for a hot minute. But so let's just go on here and they do a pretty good job. And you got to look at if you get into the podcast, you realize they are not making fun of you as a person. Those are two guys that absolutely want people to come out and shoot matches, and what they're doing is trying to make you more comfortable at your first match, and to help people help you out. I showed up knowing nobody at my first match. That's a tough way to do it. It's kind of how I do all things. It's not my favorite way to do it. I wish I had a close friend in the area that was a competitive shooter with me, but I don't. And if I'm looking down at my notes I took while I was reloading from their stuff. So my first match was later than I thought it was. I knew it was in 2019 because I was geo batching at Fort Hood at the time. Wife and girls were somewhere else, and I was at Fort Hood working, helping stand up 3rd SFAB. So it was not until July of 2019 that I shot my first match. About 4 months after that, we were out the door, so I only got 3-4 matches in before we deployed. And looking back, there was a dude there named John. John may or may not ever watch this. John was really into running guns. And this was at Best of the West, Mark Witt match. He's a great dude. I see him out here on the East Coast from time to time shooting. Luckily, I was on his squad, and he kind of took me under his wing and helped me out. But yeah, this was at Best of the West back when it was open. That match closed down. I think it's out at Reveille Peak, Reveille Ranch, however they say that now. But there was this dude John that was there. John is a run and gun guy. That was what he liked to do, and he shot 3-gun and 2-gun on the weekends to kind of take it easy on the running and prep for that. So, thinking back to some of those conversations with John, he kept an eye on me and made sure I wasn't doing anything crazy. And I now wonder, was he just extremely sarcastic and dry, and I wasn't picking up on it? Was he feeling me out? I don't know, but. The good news is I did not visit Dairy Queen those first few matches, and things went well. So first two things they talked about: timing out and crazy stage plans. I think I absolutely timed out on every stage my first match. If you're coming from a conventional military background, you just are not used to shooting that fast. A fast target exposure on our annual qualification is a 3-second exposure at 50 yards to a half an E-type, right? So that's really slow for the competitive shooting world. And then when you throw pistol in with small targets, it gets tough from there. Crazy stage plans. Yeah, did some of that too. I was very cognizant of the 360. That's something that I think military and law enforcement guys probably struggle with, because we are used to operating in the world that is a 360 shoot house. So getting used to making sure your muzzle is 180, doesn't break the 180 can be a thing. So I, even to the point that at one point I, on my own, not recording the stage brief, shot offhand because I was moving from right to left so that I could move with the muzzle down range. And instead of transitioning back around, I just shouldered the rifle on my left shoulder and shot. For me, that was fine, right? I was training for deployment. Like I said, it was 120 days out from deployment. It wasn't bad. All right, I'm going to go down the list here. I've got some visual accessories next to me that I'll pull up. So the first one on the list, and this one I want to say all these guys, Adams, you cut me real deep here, Shrek. Man, this hurt, but you are right in what you said. So the first one out there is Serpa holster. So I shot the first match with a stock Glock 17. It is still a stock Glock 17 that is clear. And this is a Serpa holster for those that don't know. Serpa holsters were it early in the GWAT. First deployment, I didn't have a sidearm. Next three, I had a sidearm, and all of them I carried Serpas. So in my Army mind, the Serpa was it, right? For those that don't know, those that are old like me, the Serpa is not it. In the competitive shooting space, and even in the tactical space now, the Serpas are gone. The problem being that when you depress this firearm lock and you pull out, if you are not disciplined, it's very easy for your finger to slide down onto the trigger when it doesn't need to be there yet, and you can have NDs. So that has made the Serpa go out of style. Like I said, my first three out of my first 4 deployments, this was the holster. I probably have 4 or 5 of these in various shades of green with various attachment points. Very easy with the paddle holster to throw it in and out of your pants when you're going in and out of your facilities. The reality is the new holsters. This is the new holster that's issued with the M17 for the Army. It's a Safari Land, multiple retention points. If you are shooting this because you want to shoot, you've gone out and bought a SIG 320. I have 3. I'm not bagging on them, but you may want to watch some internet videos and figure out if that's what you want to do. If you have an M17 with external safety, you're probably good. You will not be out of place on a range with these. If you're shooting USPSA, all safeties have to be engaged, so your draw will suffer a little bit. And if you're shooting 3-gun, most people are shooting some sort of retention anyway because you're often running with a loaded holster. So this would not be out of place on the modern range, unlike the Serpa. All right. The next one, combat boots. Yeah, I still shoot in combat boots from time to time. If I'm on a range that's muddy, I am 100% pulling out my boots and I'm shooting at them. But I get it. Yes, I have the speed crosses like everybody else has right now. I see people in football cleats, whatever. But if you're going to shoot and it's your first time, you're not out of place in your combat boots. It's fine. You're probably going to be on a dry, dusty, rocky range. You lace those things up. You're not going to twist an ankle. You'll be good. But as you get into the sport, you will want some sort of trail shoe. And the speed crosses are what everybody's going through. And the name is escaped to me now. But I actually have a set of combat boots that I wear. They're not authorized for garrison wear, but when allowed, I wear them in the field, and they are good field boots. And those are kind of my mud shooting boots. Now, if I'm on something that is muddy, mags going in the wrong way. And I didn't bring a mag, but the modern idea is that if it's forward of your hip, the rounds are forward. If it's back of your hip, and you are going to go with the beer, what I know is the beer can reload, then you can run the pistols, the rounds backwards. When I grew up in the Army, we carried everything back of our hip because you wanted to lay flat, so everything was rounds to the back. So I definitely, for my first 3 or 4 matches, carried rounds backwards. Then that deployment trained with some ODAs, and they're like, no, man, you need to switch those around the other way, carry them forward on your hip, and you're good. So again, the special ops guys, they kind of have it figured out a little more than the conventional guys from time to time. All right, this is a big one. I shoot USPSA here at Fort Benning. A lot of regiment guys come out and shoot, and a lot of them are wearing their work belt. I think they called it a fighting belt. I know it as a battle belt. This one is, here's the irony of this. This is a Ronin tactical belt. This was a $200 belt when I bought it. I did wear this in Afghanistan without all the stuff on it. It does have an IFAK on it. This is set up for running guns, so I can carry 5 rifle mags and 4 pistol mags on this, which is way too much. But for a running gun, you need something like that if you're not going to wear a chest rig. And then it's got space on it to put a dump pouch, which are all the things that, in their words, a Gary would use. And here's what I'm going to say. There is a saying in the competitive shooting world, run what you got. This costs way more than my Safari Land belt. This is a much higher quality belt. As you can see, it's holding its shape. Most belts aren't going to do this. Also notice this has Velcro on the inside, and it has an inner belt. This is the inner belt that came with it. I actually use this with my Safari Land still. This is a great system. I just went back and looked at some pictures. I shot this at my first major, which was the Pro-Am up in South Carolina, which I shot it as an AM, so it makes sense. I think I still am an AM, but it makes sense. What this is not, I think what the guys are talking about, the big fat ones. This is another brand of battle belt. This is a something weird's going on with my computer here. There we go. This is a Grey Ghost gear. Nothing wrong with Grey Ghost. Huge supporters of Memorial 3 gun. I'm a fan of their stuff, but this is another kind. This is what you wouldn't want to do. This has the padded inner in it right now. This is what you would not want to wear unless you were going to run this pad through your belt loops. I think that's really what they're getting at is you want a belt that's going to stay in place on your hips really good, and that's where this style of thin inner belt that you run through your belt loops is going to hold it in place. But so I had that right from the beginning, but they are correct. For what I paid for the belt alone, the Ronin tactical belt alone, I probably still don't have that much money in my Safari Land setup, and I've got the ratchet system and all the fun stuff on there. It's in the closet behind me. IFAKs and tourniquets, never bad to have those in the shooting cart or in the vehicle, but not required on your person when shooting. Kind of talked use of cover, never did that, but did do, like I said, the non-dominant shooting just for my own edification there, or my own practice. Man, rifles. Okay. So I will get into this in some later videos. I am a Dang Defense fanboy. I have more of these than I care to admit, but I do own quite a few of them. I'm probably going to buy one or two more still. I don't have a Mark 18 yet, and the new PCC looks pretty cool. But this is what I ran. I bought this when I lived in Washington in 2017. This is just a V7 DD. This one is not. This is the gun I shot. I have since put a Trigger Tech trigger in here. I'm not sure which one that is. That would be the single stage. That might not be the diamond single stage. It might be a regular single stage. And then this has a adapter on it for a can. It does have offsets. I ran this as a tac ops. At the time, I had a Steiner 1-4 on it. Now it's got a Vortex 1-8. Shooting when I was shooting in Texas, the 1-4 was pretty good. I did shoot my first rifle spinner at 100 yards. The 1-4 should have been fine, but I had no idea how to shoot a rifle spinner at the time. If you're going to get serious about the modern game, you need something with probably 6 or greater power. Shooting out to 600 or 700 yards is now the norm. But the A2 flash hider, I 100% had an A2 flash hider on here. I have no problem with the stock Dang Defense butt stock. People don't like them. I have no problem with the pistol grip. People don't like them. I also wear gloves because if you're in the Army, you know we have to wear gloves. But one of the things they talked about, put that on safe, is the unnecessary tap. If you're in the Army and you get used to, our mags are not always kept well, so you load your mag and you give it another smack to make sure it's seated well. The argument, and they are correct, just learn to do it right the first time and save yourself the second and a half or whatever it is to smack your magazine. Yeah. The other thing on rifle, I don't think I did this. The first couple matches I shot were bay matches, so they definitely didn't have any long range. I think 50 yards was the longest shot. But I'm pretty sure when I shot the Pro-Am, I shot some really crazy shooting orders on my some long range stages. PRS, you normally shoot near to far. The stage is normally kind of set up that way, and that was where I was in life. I was shooting some PRS. I learned how to shoot rifle at distance. So I'm pretty sure I shot some really funky, way too much movement back and forth, shooting orders just to climb the reticle, or move up, move down, however you want to say it, on the reticle, as opposed to just holding for the appropriate target. Oh man, too much open gear. I am an open shooter now. Um, I have actually do it with this gun and my other one. I have like this really poofy bag um, that kind of velcros and loose straps over the top of this, and I will use that sometime. So yeah, I have about three bags that I've been carrying to matches. One of them I know I've never used. That poofy one I'm about done with. I just put an Arca rail in the new rifle, and you put a little Arca bag on there, and that's really all you're going to need. That and a game changer are going to do what you need to do for a three gun. 100% concur with Adam Reiser there that just learn to shoot your rifle and stop worrying about building positions. I have often shot, a plate yard offhand at 80 to 100 yards and gone, man, could I have done that faster without setting it on the tripod and shooting and making sure I went one for one, as opposed to just shooting four quick shots. The problem is that's a hard thing to practice unless you own your own plate rack. Last thing on here, and experiences are going to vary on this, is the use of too much military jargon. I don't think I did that very well. However, I did stand out quite a bit as a military guy. It was outside Fort Hood. That said, there was only one other known military guy there, and like I said, I was wearing a camouflage belt, pretty easy to pick out. But that is something to be cognizant of, and they are right. They made the joke that the AMU doesn't use military jargon. It's because they don't know it. They're not in the real Army. If you're around the instructor training group guys, those guys have all come from the force, but the vast majority of AMU joins the Army, goes through basic training. They know what their drill sergeant told them, and then they get pulled in the AMU, and they do a ton of non-standard stuff. Are they great human beings? Absolutely. Are they very good at what they do for the Army, which is go out and win and recruit and make people want to join the Army? Absolutely. And there is a filter process once you get behind the scenes in Fort Benning of the AMU taking what's coming out of the competition space, going to special ops units, seeing if it's really applicable to the tactical world. And if it is, it will then filter down in a year or two into doctrine, mostly through the Master Marksmanship Training course or Sniper School, because those are really where that stuff comes into play. But hey, like I said, on the Perf Podcast, if I was good and wanted to spend a bunch of time on iMovie today, I would put in a picture of their stuff. But it's on the Perf, it's on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and probably all the podcast things. I'm excited about it because it's the first podcast I've been there from the beginning of. Dave Hartman's 3-Gun Show was great. This is filling the void, and I hope the guys keep it up. And guys, I got one thing for you. Yeah, just one for Gary of the day, and that is shooting with a sling when it's not required. I tried to do that in my first match, and luckily Mark Witt was like, "Hey, brother, don't do that. That's not what we're doing here." I shot a match a couple weeks ago. We had some guys that, hey, we want to work on work stuff, and we wear a sling at work, so we're going to wear slings. Cool. It's going to add 2 to 3 seconds every time you have to dump your rifle to transition to pistol, because you're not going to run around with a slung rifle on your front while you're shooting your pistol. But yeah, like I said, in the future, I'm going to do a why it's hard for conventional military folks to go shoot. I do think it is a hard thing to do. It requires you to swallow a lot of pride and know yourself pretty well to go do that. But I think it's doable, and I think we should do it. And there's actually starting to be more and more of a grassroots movement in the military to get into some hit factor type scoring and push engagements. The Marines are experimenting with it right now, and there was a tactical battalion commander in his exo who just wrote something, has been published the last couple of weeks, about scoring live fire targets. And we've all done that in the past, and there's different ways to do it. Like I said, Special Ops and Regiment, SAF Regiment, those guys, they're way better at that than maybe the line Army. But get out and shoot, go compete, and have a good time. All right, YouTube, happy Tuesday. My lunch is almost done. We'll talk to you later.